Hey guys, Mrs. Yeagle here. I'm ready to read chapter 28 of Addison Cooke and the Tomb of the Khan. This chapter starts on 279 and it's called Ulaanbaatar. Dax led the group down the worm-rotten wood steps to an unlicensed tavern in the cellar of an abandoned coal warehouse. The tavern keeper grunted at Dax and slid warm bowls of mutton stew across the bar top. Everyone eagerly tucked in with tin spoons. Addison ordered Arnold Palmer's all around. Dax ordered his strong with extra iced tea. He needed the caffeine. Shadowy figures whispered from the dark corners of the cellar, traded dark looks, and slipped away into the dark shadows. Addison was too exhausted to take much notice. Even the Great Dane looked dog-tired. "Talk to me, Dax," said Addison, swiveling in his stool to face the pilot. "You've barely said a word for 50 miles. Dax tipped back his glass, finishing his Arnold Palmer. "You were nearly killed in Karakoram. The journey's too dangerous, Addison. I don't know why you need to keep going with this." "I don't know why you have to ask." "I don't know why you're willing to endanger yourself." "I don't know why muffins have wrappers," said Addison. "It's so you can get them out of a muffin tin," said Eddie, sitting next to Addison at the bar. "Chicken pot pie is cooked in a tin. You don't have chicken pot pie wrappers. Pies are cooked in pie tins. Why aren't there pie wrappers?" "I don't see what this has to do with the Khan's tomb," Dax cut in. "It has everything to do with the Khan's tomb. It's an analogy," said Addison. "I don't have to know why muffins have wrappers. I just know I'm supposed to eat the muffin." "What are we talking about?" said Molly. Dax threw his hands up in the air. "I'm done. I've been robbed, beat up, and shot at too many times for 1 week. I'm out." "What do you mean?" asked Addison. "We need your help to get to the Khan's treasure." "I'm not going to help you get yourself killed. You've been lucky so far, but you have to know when to cash in your chips and step away from the table. Besides, you don't need a pilot without a plane." Addison drew a fresh credit card from Tony Chin's wallet. "We'll score you a plane." Dax shook his head. "I crashed the plane. That's on me. Keep your money. Use it to buy yourselves a flight back to the United States." "We're not leaving Mongolia without my aunt and uncle," said Addison firmly. "What do you hope to accomplish? I don't know if you've noticed it, kid, but you're up against two of the deadliest criminal gangs in the world. And you are 12. 13. Same difference. You want to do your aunt and uncle a favor? Get home safely. They chose this life. You didn't." "I thought you were their friend." "I am. Doesn't mean they'd want me to die for them." Addison frowned. "Dax, you're not the type of person to turn tail and run. You're better than this. Kid, you don't know anything about me." Addison inched his bar stool closer to Dax. "I know from the Navy badges under your bomber jacket that you've seen combat, which means you're braver than you pretend to be. I know you chew toothpicks when you're tense because you gave up smoking, and that means you've got willpower. And I know from Eddie that the Chinese character tattooed on your forearm means loyalty. So yes, I do know something about you. And I know that underneath all your questionable qualities, you're actually a decent man." Dax stared at the bottom of his empty stein and said nothing. Addison stood up from his stool. "Poaching poachers in Africa is noble work. Brave, too. Sooner or later, Dax, you're going to have to face the fact that you're a good person." He handed the pilot one of Tony Chin's credit cards. "I'm sorry your plane got crashed, but you should be thanking me." "Why?" "Your plane wasn't that great anyway." Addison polished off the dregs of his Arnold Palmer and swirled the ice cubes in the pewter mug. "Get yourself a new one. Maybe that Cessna Skylark you were talking about." "Skyhawk," said Dax. "Same difference, as long as it has a faster liftoff." He patted Dax on the shoulder and signaled the tavern innkeeper. "Get him another AP and make it a double." Addison snagged a business card from the stack on the bar top. The tavern was called the Muddy Duck. He gestured to the phone behind the bar. "Dax, I'm going to find my aunt and uncle. And I'm going to stop the triads and the Vori from raiding the Khan's treasure. When I need to reach you for an extraction, I'll contact this bar." He pointed to the triad credit card in Dax's hands. "There's a pretty high limit on that card. You could start over with a new plane and you could gamble the money away. I know which one I'm betting on." He ushered his team out the door. Before Addison pushed through the beaded curtain, he took one last look at Dax. The pilot sat nursing his drink, staring at the credit card, turning it over and over in his hands. Addison's group found lodging for the night in a ramshackle stable they shared with their horses. Nobody, and I don't know, proved adept at negotiating with the stable owner in Mongolian. Eddie was not thrilled with the accommodations, but Addison was thrilled with the price. He was running low on Tony Chin's cash and wasn't sure when he would find another opportunity to pickpocket a triad. He woke the next morning to the sight of Molly and I don't know balancing on the wooden posts of a horse stall, practicing jump kicks. He didn't know much about martial arts. Absolutely nothing, in fact, but he rather thought Molly's form was improving. After several minutes of meticulously picking all the straw from his blazer, he herded the group out into the capital to search for Sir Frederick's next clue. Ulaanbaatar was a grim, soot-stained city of concrete, smog, and smokestacks. Addison did not find much to recommend it, although he did admire the brand-new Museum of Archaeology. The city was papered with colorful flyers advertising the newest exhibit. With such attention to archaeology, Addison figured the city could not be all bad. The group breakfasted on sheep cheese, ground millet, and lamb jerky that Addison wrangled from a street-side vendor. Eddie complained that it was disgusting, and also that there wasn't enough of it. Armed with his compass and Fiddleton's Asia Atlas, Addison set off in search of Wang Kong's 12th century palace. We found Sir Frederick's shield, his sword, and his helm, so we know the next clue is his lance because that's the next item in the psalm he keeps repeating. Consulting the address in his atlas, Addison circled the coordinates of the palace on his map and jigsawed his way through the chaotic grid of city streets. A bloodhound, hot on the scent, his excitement was reaching fever pitch. Genghis Khan's father was blood brother to Wang Khan. The great Khan stayed in this palace before attacking the Tangut people in 1226. He turned a corner and spread out both hands. And here we are, the palace of Wang Khan. There are times when life wildly surpasses all expectations. There are also times when the opposite is true. Addison realized he was pointing directly at a shopping mall. He double-checked his directions. "Is it conceivable," Molly said cautiously, "that Roland J. Fiddleton got the address wrong?" Addison fixed her with a withering look. "Sorry I asked." Addison looked from the map to the shopping mall, to the map, to the street signs, to the map, to nobody, to the map, and back to the shopping mall. He was still befuddled, so he repeated the sequence, but it didn't help. I don't know read a placard by the mall entrance, engraved in traditional Mongolian script. "This shopping mall was built last year on the former site of Wang Khan's palace." Addison's jaw fell open like a broken tailgate. "Can they do that?" asked Molly. "Of course," said Addison. He felt his face growing hot with anger. "It happens all the time. The Chinese bulldozed every Ming Dynasty building in Kunming to put up new chain stores. The government of Belize knocked down a 100-foot-tall Mayan pyramid so they could run a highway through it. In Peru, developers dynamited a 4,000-year-old pyramid to put up a luxury apartment building." "Well, what did they do with Wang Khan's palace?" asked Molly. "I don't know," said I don't know. "I guess they paved over it." Addison sat down in the middle of the mall parking lot, defeated. "We crossed the Gobi Desert, fought Hong Kong triads, dodged 100 bullets, and someone paved over our palace?" Molly sat down next to Addison. He was normally an irrepressible optimist. She was not used to seeing him like this. "Is that it?" asked Raj. "Do we just give up after all that?" Addison ran his hands through his hair. He repeated the clue he had memorized. "At the palace of Prester John, I bested his top warrior in single combat. He swore to keep my sign forever hanging among the weapons in his trophy room." He sighed. It made perfect sense. Sir Frederick's lance would best a Mongol in single combat. The Mongols didn't have weapons that long. Then Prester John hung the lance in his weapons room, commemorating the battle. We solved the clue perfectly. We were just a year too late. "Maybe Dax was right," said Eddie. "We should just go home." "We still need Aunt Delia and Uncle Nigel." Molly saw the faraway look in Addison's eye that meant gears were turning in his brain. "What are you thinking?" Addison wasn't listening. He stood up and sat down. Then he stood up, paced in a circle, and sat down again. "Julia Aurelia Zenobia, Queen of Syria and Scourge of Rome." "Is he having another stroke?" asked Eddie. "I know where the lance is." We've been staring at it all morning. He laughed excitedly. Molly watched him nervously. Possibly the strain of travel was finally causing him to crack. Addison spoke quickly. The Mongolians wouldn't just pave over the ruins of a palace, not when they have a perfectly good archaeology museum. He leapt to his feet and crossed to one of the many museum ads that papered the lampposts of Ulaanbaatar. He pointed to the Mongol script. I don't know. What does this sign say? It's an ad for the opening of a new museum exhibit. What sort of exhibit? I don't know, read the sign and smiled. Relics of the Wang Khan Palace. Addison studied the collage of images on the poster. One photo in particular caught his eye. Wang Khan's weapons room. He turned to show the group, jabbing his finger at the picture. And there, front and center on the museum wall, hung a knight's lance. The team gathered around to take a closer look. You think so? Asked Molly. Absolutely. Addison's face was suddenly solemn. Molly, do you realize what this means? Molly was already shaking her head. Don't even think it, Addison. What? Well, what does it mean? Asked Eddie. Addison, I'm warning you, said Molly. We have no choice. Addison turned to face the group. We're going to do the one thing Uncle Nigel told us never to do in our lives. The worst imaginable crime. Addison Cooke took a deep breath. We're going to rob a museum.